Hey, Yinz guys and gals, gather round for a journey like no other. It's time to hop on board the Where Yinz Goin podcast, proudly brought to you by Dreams by Design Travel. From the rivers that meet at the point to form downtown Pittsburgh to the furthest corners of the globe, that'll be your compass, your confidant, your companion in that as we explore the wonders of travel. Kick back, relax on your couch, and let the wanderlust wash over you as we discover new horizons and reminisce about old favorites. With Dreams by Design Travel by our side, the sky's the limit. Join Matt on the Where Yinz Goin podcast because when it comes to travel, the journey's just getting started. And now, without further ado, let's give a shout for your guide through the highways and byways of travel, the man with a map, the voice of the stale city, Matt Trader.
Hi, Yinz doing? Welcome to the Where Yinz Goin podcast, brought to you by Dreams by Design Travel. I'm Matt. I'm your host. Joining me again today is Justin, who's been on with me 4 times, and he's going to join me again next week. We get to talk about Star Wars Galaxy's Edge again for its 5th anniversary. So welcome back to the podcast, Justin.
Thanks for having me back, Matt. I'm enjoying this a lot, getting a chance to talk to you so much.
It's wonderful talking to you too. It's between you and Katie, you're like, competing for the MFC, the most frequent contributor to the podcast. I joke with
keep my
Katie,
numbers up.
yeah, I joke with Katie. She's almost the unofficial co-host. So, you're right up there with her. She said about getting shirts that say that on it. So,
Oh, there you go.
welcome to the club. So as we start every podcast, we'll ask the same question of what is your favorite place that you've ever visited, or is there a place you would like to visit the most? I know we covered, about half the globe with you now.
Yeah, I've sort of bounced all over the place there for you with the different ones I've talked about, and this one's a little closer to some of the ones that I've mentioned before. Starting out down in Florida and popping over to either, or well, actually not either. I'd like to do this as a double dip cruise with Castaway Key and Lookout Key at Lighthouse Point. I think it would be really cool to be able to hit both those locations at the single cruise. There's not a ton of them at this point in time. I think we'll see more, which we'll be able to discuss that here very shortly. And I've heard good things on the double dips that people have really enjoyed having the opportunity of seeing both of those islands.
And one of our other travel advisors at Dreams by Design, Maureen, she just went to Lookout Point and she has raved about it. That she said it was really, really nice. I'm gonna have her on podcast in a couple weeks, I think. If we can arrange schedules whenever she gets back to try and talk about it. But that's one thing that I've seen the pictures, and she's talked about how great the food is and the activities and everything. And Disney did a really good job of developing part of the island to have stuff to do, but they left most of it undeveloped so that you can still have those natural experiences and see the natural beauty and everything, and to see everything untouched and just maintain the beauty of the place. So I think they did a pretty good job on that.
Yeah, definitely. And the pictures, like you said, have been amazing that I've seen Maureen and some of the other people posting. So it will be really cool to get a chance to see that in person.
And I just call it Lookout Point, or did I say Lighthouse Point? It's supposed to be Lighthouse Point.
It's Lighthouse Point. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what I said, but we got it
I'm not
correct.
sure.
So, but today we are going to talk about all of the announcements of new things that came out of D23 about a week ago. Well, by the time this airs, it'll be 2 weeks ago or so. That we're going to get into all the new things coming and talk about those a little bit. So, first thing on our agenda, since you were talking about the Disney Cruise Line, let's go in with that. So, they're going to have 4 new ships coming from 2027 to 2031, which that just makes me feel really old with those numbers. Growing up, it's like,
Yeah,
yeah, in the year 2030. It's like, oh, that's so far away. It's like, oh no, it's coming quickly. So right
right.
now they have 5 current ships. The Magic, which was built in 1998, the Wonder in 1999, the Dream in 2011, the Fantasy in 2012, the Wish in 2022. And then there's 4 ships that they already announced that are coming down the line. Just this December, the Treasure is going to make his maiden voyage. And then next year we have 2 ships. The Destiny is the big one, which will start sailing next November. And then there's also the Adventure, but that's going to be in Asia with the home port of Singapore. And then there's still one more coming in 2028 that they have not named yet. So by the time this is all done, there's going to be 13 Disney cruise ships, which that's that's a bit mind blowing right there. There's just so many opportunities to go on cruises now, and just think of the destinations of not just the Caribbean, but now they can, they have some in Alaska. They can do the West Coast. Hoping they'll get some down to Australia. They'll have one at least in Asia, and I imagine they'll have at least another one there. They have a few in Europe, so there's a lot of opportunities for all kinds of cruises all around the world now.
Yeah, they blew up size wise very, very quick. I mean, they had, 98 to even 2012. I mean, that's 14 years and they had 4 ships. In 9 years, they're putting out 9 years, they're putting out 8 more. Like, that's a really aggressive approach to getting those out there. But the demand's there. That, like, there's so many locations that people want to do a Disney cruise at. The type of service, the um, opportunities that you get with the things at the different locations, it's special, and it's very different, I think, than a lot of the other cruise lines, that you get to be put in experiences with Disney shows and the movies, seeing movies before they're ever released in regular theaters, um, things like that. It's really cool with the cruise lines.
And if anyone wants to hear a whole lot more about cruises, specifically one to Alaska, we had a 2-part episode split over 2 parts with our good friend Katie that she talked about her Alaska cruise. It was, I think, in June that we aired that, and she completely raved about it. That she loved it, and that was the thing that she said: of you get the Disney entertainment, you get the Disney service, but you're on a cruise ship going to these fabulous places that's not just in a Disney park. But even with that, they have um the Aqua Mouse on some of the newer ships, and was it the Aqua Duck on the other ones?
Yep.
It's, water ride, sort of combination roller coaster water slide type thing that looks like a whole lot of fun. And that's one thing that I have not done a Disney cruise yet, but that is one thing that whenever I first saw them come out with, I was like, oh wow, I want to do that.
Yeah, I think that I'm going to have a very hard time getting the kids off the Aqua Mouse once we do it the first time. Especially since they're starting to do like different interactivity within the the ride and stuff. I believe that it switches now, sort of like Star Tours, where you'll have slightly different experiences in it.
And that just is a tribute to Disney with their brilliance with their rideability or repeat rideability on a lot of their attractions. Once you go on, you can still go on it again. And it's not just the same old thing. It's something new, and it keeps you excited about it. So, and the other thing that Disney does is they have special nights on their cruises. So there's Marvel Day at Sea, there's Star Wars days, there's Pirate days. So they factor in other special things that it's as amazing as the destinations they go are, and as much fun as they already have, and many activities and shows and whatever else to do on the ships, that they have these special occasions too, which are very, very popular.
And then on top of that, you have all the holiday cruises, the Halloween, Christmas, like those. They really go over the top with the decorations and everything else, and bringing additional options that you wouldn't see maybe during a spring cruise.
Mm-hmm. And just the decorations that they have normally around the ship with which was I can't remember which if it was the Adventure or the Destiny that has Peter Pan and Captain Hook on the bow of it hanging out, and even just a little, not just having the figures there, but the little interplay of their postures and how they're, kind of facing off against each other with Hook leaning out the one portal and Peter Pan just hanging sort of on the side. That there's a lot of little fun nuances there that just play into the storytelling that Disney does so well. So, anything else you wanted to add about the cruise ships?
I don't think anything else. I'm really looking forward to just seeing the ships, what approach they maybe take. Like, are these next five going to be maybe combination of slightly bigger and slightly smaller ships to get to maybe be more towards having their own river cruises, or are they going to go towards those super class size ships, or are they going to stick with sort of that sweet spot size that they have right now, that it's enough that they are servicing a lot of people, but it still gives you sort of a small ship feel. Um, so it'll be interesting to see on that.
Yeah, or if they go towards, like you say, a little smaller size ship to maybe go through Panama Canal, or even some of the smaller ones that like HX or Quark, or some of the ones do like expedition ships that go to the Antarctic, or
Right.
they're gonna go to the Galapagos, or they're smaller so they can go to some of these more out of the way places that the larger big cruise ships cannot fit in. And with the smaller ships and a smaller number of passengers, they're allowed to do landings in different destinations, that are protected. And, people, you know, don't want to overpopulate because they are so biologically fragile that, they can only have a certain number of people going on it. So that'll be really interesting. And with the river cruises, right now with Adventures by Disney, they do offer river cruises, but they partner with Alma Waterways, which is like the biggest name in river cruises. Um, them and Viking does a very good job too, but Disney partners with Alma Waterways, and maybe they're gonna branch out and have some a little bit of a fleet of their own. That would be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's sort of how Disney started. They rented their first ship and rebranded initially. Like, before they physically built the Magic, they tested by having a rental ship basically. And then they decided that there was enough interest that they were like, okay, we're going to invest into a ship of our own and do it the Disney way. And so it could be now that done those they've done those river cruises. I want to say it's probably the past 6 or 7 years, maybe a little bit more.
It's been a
Um,
little while.
and so they might be at that comfort zone point where they're like, okay, we appreciate what the partnership's done, but we got it now, and we're gonna focus on continuing to improve the experience that way. So be interesting.
And if you want to learn more about Adventures by Disney, I talked with our boss Donna about her Adventures by Disney trip to Southern California in Disneyland. And so we touch on a little bit of some of the other things, other places you can go with Adventures by Disney, but that's an amazing experience that she had, and they treat you so, so well. But that'll be coming up in a couple weeks. So, but let's move on to Disneyland Resort out in California, specifically Disneyland Park, where on November 15th, Tiana's Bayou Adventure is going to open in the newly branded Bayou Country. So no longer Critter Country, it'll become Bayou Country, which was a needed change. but I think a very appropriate change, especially because the Haunted Mansion and New Orleans Square are right next door to it. This can be a real nice uh, flow from one to the other and that real nice transition. So I'm looking
I,
forward to that.
yeah, like you said, I think that was a needed change. There have been so many transitions in that area, and the way the area is designed for the like the house there for the Haunted Mansion is from uh like New Orleans type areas and things like that. It makes logical sense to make that transition. Um,
And along with that change, the Hungry Bear restaurant will become the Hungry Bear Barbecue Jamboree. Just don't try to say that too fast or with a mouthful of food. So, um,
yeah, that's gonna be a little bit harder to run through. But hopefully they lean on the chef from Woody's. Like, have you eaten a Woody's lunchbox or
no,
the barbecue?
no,
Oh
yeah,
my
the
goodness.
Roundup Rodeo Barbecue. The
Yeah.
last time we were there, we were debating different places to eat at, and we typically only do a sit down restaurant once during the trip just because of planning and the time it takes, and also with our little, having a little 4-year old in tow, you never know what she's going to want to eat. Um, and my wife's the one who really does the restaurant planning of she'll go,
Gotcha.
of course she waits like the last minute. We're like 6 days out. Actually, we talked to her like 70 or so days of, all right, we got about 10 days. Let's plan where you want to go and everything. It's like, okay, we'll get to it later. And then usually like 20 days out. Okay, well, where should we eat? It's like, well, we'll see what's left
Right.
with the plan.
Let's see
Yeah.
what availability is now from from what other people didn't want.
No,
Um,
we've made our sit down place in Disney Springs the last couple of times that she's been going through just that big list of restaurants they have all over there. And she's
uh,
like, "Well, let's try." And mainly it's going to be on our arrival day when we have a little bit more time. We're not so worried about rushing around the parks, and we can plan things out a little bit more about what our day is going to be and where we're going to be and what we're going to feel like and all that stuff.
yeah, that's a good way of doing the list there is just huge for what you can try and what big name chef restaurant is now there and I know my list is pretty long for Disney Springs restaurants that I still want to get to.
Although the thing she came across last time, we were just walking by it, is Gideon's with the cookies, and
Yes.
she saw those. She saw the line and was just like, "Oh my gosh, what are all these people waiting here for?" And then she saw the big pictures of the cookies on the side of the building. She's like, "Oh, those look good." And so we did end up didn't go in because the line was too long and she didn't want to wait that long. But this next trip, I think she's easing towards. Yeah, I think it's worth it.
Yeah, that's one I haven't stood in line for yet. I think that if my kids ever get sight of it, I probably will be stuck in line at on one day of the trip.
So, but yeah, the Run Up Rodeo barbecue, I've heard nothing but good things about that, and the atmosphere of being in there is just adds to it. Of everyone has to, watch out, Andy's coming, freeze, and it really puts you the immersiveness of it.
Yes.
Everyone talks about how great Star Wars Galaxy's Edge is, which it is, and we'll talk about all that next week. But just like Cars Land, Toy Story Land really puts you into Andy's backyard and you're in that environment, and they did a very, very good job of it.
Yeah, the kids had a great time there when we this last trip and just even little things that they do like when you go to the table they have like the old uh toy horse with the stick.
Oh, the hobby horse
uh
things.
the hobby horse, yeah. So you can ride a hobby horse to the table and then when you finish they'll bring the horse back for you to ride back out of the restaurant if you want. So nice little things like that that make it a little extra special.
And again, the storytelling and the immersiveness that Disney does is top notch. Speaking of storytelling and Disney, one that I'm looking forward to in on Main Street is Walt Disney A Magical Life that's going to open in 2025. So sometime next year it's going to come. It's going to be in the Main Street house and you basically get to visit Walt in his office and I imagine he's going to tell stories about his life and I would assume Disneyland Park because that's where it's at and everything. And after its initial run, it will then rotate with great moments with Mr. Lincoln. So don't worry, Mr. Lincoln's not going away. You know, the original audio animatronic that kind of started it all will still be there.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the exact approach is, if it's him and sort of talking about like what all's been achieved and what's sort of next at that point in time in his life, because it's sort of, at least from the look of the animatronic from the concept art, it looks like it's him sort of towards his later years, with Epcot in the works and things like that. um so it'll be interesting to see if they talk about maybe things that he was potentially looking at that maybe never came, or what he has as a hope for the future years coming up at that point. um it'll be really neat to see that. And I think it's sort of long overdue. I mean, they did say though they wanted to really make sure that the animatronics were at a particular level before they ever did one for Walt, though. And they're comfortable now doing it, so it'll be nice to see that uh, be in the park soon.
And I think in the past couple years with Hondo on Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run, and then the newer ones with Tiana's that I've seen those in action on some videos, and just the amount of articulation they can do is really, really amazing. And I think that's a very, very smart thing they're doing with rotating it with Mr. Lincoln, because if something would ever go wrong, you know, it's not going to be they have their B show type thing that, you know, if something
Right.
goes wrong, it's not going to shut down the attraction. All right, let's swap in Mr. Lincoln today and we'll fix it and then swap it back out. And that'll be another interesting thing of how they're going to do the swapping, whether it's going to
Right.
be like a turntable thing that you can just like spin around, or if they'll slide left and right, or like the American Adventure in Epcot, they have a very elaborate system of how they swap in and out their audio animatronics. They One of the
Mhm.
backstage tours that I did, and we actually got to go underneath there and see this elaborate system of how it was like a
No.
robot arm that like slides them in on these little shelves and then
Hmm.
pulls one out and puts it up and then it slides it back into its shelf and pulls the next one up. So I
Interesting.
know they're kind of limited with space in that little area, but I'll be intrigued
um
how fast they can swap them out.
well, my understanding is for at least the interchange between Walt and Mr. Lincoln, the uh, they filed for a turntable, like a patent of some sort, I guess, to be used for the transition between the two shows. So that sounds like it's going to be a super fast transition between the two. So I don't know if it's going to be like in every hour they change, or what the case will be once it goes to the actual rotation between the two. Um, but then also, like you said, they swapped that around, and they may be able to just literally pop the one Walt off and set it to the side and pop a new one on that they know is completely functional, test it while the other show is running, and flip it around and be good to go. So it could be something as simple as that. And if they had, like you said, the area is tight, but they may have that opportunity to be able to prevent downtime even more so with that.
Yeah, the schedule will be interesting. It's gonna be every other show, every hour, every day. So I'm looking forward to seeing how they do that because the Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln is a fabulous show to begin with. Especially if you're a history lover. And Civil War history is something I really got into in high school. That my high school chemistry teacher was a Civil War reenactor, so he came and taught the history lesson on it. And around Veterans Day and in mid-November, I talked to two Civil War reenactors about going visiting Gettysburg, and so we get into a whole big thing of that. And you'll find out how much I uh, have gotten into Civil War stuff over the years. It's just a fascinating period of time. So the whole Lincoln thing just is right in that, right in my wheelhouse for that. So across the street across the plaza, really, in Disney California Adventure Park, they're gonna have a new Avatar ride that's coming. So, and this one's gonna be based on Avatar: The Way of Water. So the second film, whereas the one in Walt Disney World of the Animal Kingdom is based on the original movie with Pandora. But now you get to get on a boat ride and go through uh, some of the waterways of Pandora. And based on what they did with the Navi River Journey, the audio animatronics of that and the storytelling, it's really, really done well. It's a bit of a sleepy, slower ride. It's not going to be anything to get your heart pumping or anything. But if they're going for storytelling, there's a great opportunity for that.
Yeah, and from what I'm hearing and saw in the presentation, it's going to be another boat ride, but it's not the boat ride that we're used to. It's going to be a little bit more action packed, a little bit more storytelling wise, that is going to be active. Like, I don't know if we're going to get some little hills and stuff like that inside, like you get in Pirates or Frozen, or something like that, or if they're gonna have something else that maybe will create more action and emotion around you, like with like maybe Dinosaur or something like that, that you're gonna have more active characters close to that, versus it just being like the shaman playing music and all the pretty bioluminescent creatures and stuff.
Yeah, and if they could possibly, like you said, dinosaur, of having the dinosaur vehicle where it's also the Indiana Jones one too, that the
Hmm.
actual vehicle moves, that if they can incorporate some of that into the boat and have, your boat rock while it's, still maintain being stable, but the seats will rock back and forth.
Right?
That could be
Yeah,
an interesting aspect.
it would be.
Other thing that they're adding is Avengers Campus is going to basically double in size, and they're going to start construction next year on that. And there's going to be two new attractions that are coming. So first is Avengers Infinity Defense, where you get to travel to Asgard, Wakanda, New York, and other places to defeat Thanos, who's stolen technology that can transport through dimensions or transport to different worlds. So that has a lot of promise.
Yeah, that looks like a very interesting ride. It'll be cool to see what approach they take for that particular ride. It'll be neat to see all of those locations, because that Avengers Campus is supposed to be just a stopping point, and there's supposed to be multiple others Avengers campuses throughout the world, and uh, having that as being a launching point to get you to some of these other locations will be cool to see. The storytelling that they're gonna have open to them, and characters that they're gonna be able to open with doing that will be nice to bring more in, and they keep bringing more in. I mean, we got Deadpool and Wolverine now with their own little show there. I don't know if you saw that recently.
In Disney in California Adventure,
Yeah.
I have not, but
Oh my goodness. If especially if you've seen the movie, but even without, like, if you like Deadpool and Wolverine sort of like step brothers type interactions between the two of them, it's hilarious. And it seems like I could be wrong, but it really seems like that they picked um cast members that are able to do the voices of both of the actors, and it's actually being ad-libbed to a point, similar to how Frozen, how they'll alter depending sometimes on how
Hmm.
the audience is reacting and stuff like that. It seems that it is that way for this show as well, because there's been points where it's like, I don't remember seeing that before. And so I'm sure they're not paying for that to be done by uh
Hugh Jackman
the
and
yeah,
was it
Ryan
Ron
Reynolds.
Reynolds? Yeah.
Yeah.
So and still keeping it PG rated for the parks too with Deadpool. That's an accomplishment.
Yeah, it they walk that fine line like they did in sort of the earlier movies where it's like, okay, like it's enough that the parents are going and laughing over it because they know more than what the younger ones do, but it's not that R-rated Deadpool and Wolverine movie either. So
A little bit of double entendre and things with two meanings and
mhm.
or more than just what you're saying. Yeah. The other attraction coming is the Stark Flight Lab, which is you're going to sit in two-person pods that will be deployed to the test station. How about that for saying that quickly? There's a tongue twister. And a robot arm will grab the pods and simulate flight. So whatever you do, don't eat before going on this one.
Right.
Based on some of the artist's conceptual drawings, you're laying on your back with this robot arm grabbing you, and you're just flinging through the air. They don't know if it's going to be a spinning ride or if it's going to be a little bit more random movements or
Yeah.
whatever. But it looks like it's going to be wild.
Right. It sort of it at least in the initial concept art almost looked like it was in a single room, but I have a feeling that there's going to be something a little more than that going on. I don't know if it'll be like that there's a starting point in that like type of training room and then it goes wrong or something like that and you end up flying out the roof or something and then it turns more into like oh, I'm trying to think what the Harry Potter ride is that you're on that there you're on sort of like an arm system where it flies and stuff.
Is it the Forbidden Journey?
I think so, now that you say that. Um so it's more like that. It maybe in the end. So it'll be interesting to see what they come up with and uh but yeah, that's definitely one that's like, okay, beginning of the day or after you know your food is settled for the day. I don't think it's gonna be the gentlest ride.
Mm-hmm. Although one that seems to be a gentle one will be the Coco attraction. That they're going to start work on it in 2026, and they're going to celebrate the characters and music of Coco, is what they're saying. And there's promises of skeleton audio animatronics. So I don't know if this is going to be a boat ride through. Have you seen or heard
I did
anything
see the
about it?
concept art. It definitely gave a uh oh my brain's failing me today. Um the Donald and
Oh,
Three
the
Amigos ride.
yeah, the Grand Fiesta Tour in the
Yes.
Mexico Pavilion.
Yeah, it sort of gave you that feel, at least from the initial images. It had like the skeleton mariachi band on the side and the grandmother was on the other side and you saw um Coco at one point and so it'll be um I think definitely more of a relaxing, like, let's get in some air conditioning and just chill for a little bit type ride to give you a break from uh the heat and running around and being bounced around.
And did you hear anything about where these are going to be? Like where the Pandora ride will be, and or our Avatar ride and the Coco one? Because well, we know where Avengers Campus will be.
Right. Right. It's that's extra side section. It sort
Hmm.
of has like a barrier wall that almost looks like it's like a bay door for like you to get in. Well, now they're gonna open that door and let you in to that new area.
And that
Um,
would be a great reveal for whenever they open this up, of if they have that bay door just slide up to go
right.
into the.
Have it be a fully functional door and do that big reveal to everyone on the press day. Um, the others, honestly, I don't think I saw any official placement on either of those.
I would imagine Coca would be on Pixar Pier because they have the one area there that they do the um Day of the Dead stuff and for the
Mm,
Christmas celebration around there. There's was it the Paradise Gardens restaurant that's where they have a lot of the Hispanic themed celebrations there, that then Coco would fit very well just in that area. I'm not sure if they're
yeah,
going to do any changes to any of the other Pixar themed attractions around there. Like there's one for the Inside Out, like little balloon ride that you go up,
right.
and then a little bit farther on, they have some of the more traditional amusement park rides, like the Silly Symphony Swings, and then
Hmm.
there's Goofy Sky School. So Pandora, I guess, would fit over in if they wanted to do a little retheming of the Grizzly Peak area, because I don't know if it really fits
Okay,
anywhere else. Because Cars Land, then there's San Francisco, and
right.
so it'll be interesting where they put it.
Yeah, because I don't think the concept art really showed any,
It was only
like in some of
interior
the concept
views.
art you can see um things placed near
Yeah, I
where
think the
that art
Avatar was
is.
only interior views of the ride, though. They didn't
Well,
show.
they did a few interior ride, and then they did one that was sort of like a big overview shot, and it almost made it look like the uh thing was sort of an island, sort of how they did the initial shots with the floating rocks and everything for the initial Pandora, for like that wide shot, but literally all you saw was sort of like the island area. That's sort of what they have for this too. It has that like circular art, oops, sorry, circular arched rocks and things to that effect. Um,
Got it
that
right in the middle of the lagoon where they do World of Color. Perfect.
I am sure that will go over really well. um, but yeah, the everything that I'm seeing here is from that wide shot is like structures that sort of look more along the lines of the structures um from Pandora, how they have like the aged buildings that sort of the plant life is partially reclaimed type
Mhm.
thing. It sort of has that type of feel with some of the floating rocks as well. So it looks like we may get to see those in that areas also. But everything towards the edges is very like nondescript water grassland type thing.
So stay tuned. More announcements to come. So we can jump across the country to Walt Disney World Resort in Florida, and Magic Kingdom Park will have a two new Cars attractions in Frontierland, and construction will begin in 2025. Now, the sad part of this is that it will replace Tom Sawyer Island and the Rivers of America, which anybody with kids, young kids who sometimes need that after middle of the day, I just have to go run around break. Losing Tom Sawyer Island is not the best thing in the world. That was a great place just for kids to especially my slightly overactive little 4-year-old. And by slightly overactive, I mean she's the Energizer Bunny and never quits running, moving. She needed that place to go and just run around and slide and climb on things. Now, as an adult who, I'm not really going to miss it too much. It was a nice little place to go every once in a while, but it wasn't an every trip destination for me if I would go by myself. But I really, really like the Liberty Bell and going on the riverboat around the rivers of America and hearing the Mark Twain spiel about everything. That was really entertaining. I like that. Well, of course, Mark Twain's one of my favorite authors anyway. That his sarcasm is just cannot be topped. So I'm hoping that they move that somewhere else. That I don't know if they put it out on Bay Lake or Seven Seas Lagoon or something like that. That would be really nice to have that ride somewhere to stick around. The good thing is though, the um the Mark Twain out in Disneyland is still there. So you can always still ride that attraction.
That's true. Yeah. We didn't use Tom Sawyer Island a whole lot for my family. That probably would have been a good area, especially with my son. Like you said, Energizer or Bunny type thing. But honestly, for me, losing the Liberty Bells probably the rougher one. Because like besides like the birth of my daughter and bringing her home and things like that, one of my first big memories is taking her on there just so that we could have a quiet, relaxing time, feed her a bottle, get her to nap, and just chill on a nice, calm boat ride. And so that one's sort of a sentimental loss for me. I do hope that they're gonna find a um place for uh her there. I've seen some interesting takes on that. I Someone said about doing a relocation of the boat and actually taking it where it's sort of out of the water and making it look like maybe the bayou's partially dried up and put it at the over towards Tiana's and have it there. The person actually, the pitch that they had was to make it a stage show location and have musicians or something like that there. Um, the I did see another one. I don't know who it actually was, but I saw someone did because Cars Land is going there. Uh, they gave the Liberty Bell eyes and made her like a character from the Cars Land. So it would sort of lose that historical side of it, which I don't know if I'd be 100% behind, but it would be a way that they could potentially keep the boat active. But I don't know that that's going to happen either because it sounds like they really need the acreage of the lake and Tom Sawyer Island and everything there.
Yeah, and since that is a real working steamship, it's a real it runs on steam power. It's a paddle boat. It's an actual, almost an artifact. It's not quite that old, but it's built in that same manner. So it'll be a shame just to reduce it to just a prop. And you could
Yeah,
very easily just build a replica. And don't know if they would want to use it for other stuff because of the forced perspective on it and the scaling that it
right.
isn't, full size. That might be something. But so I hope they do reuse it somewhere. Um,
Yeah,
but having a replica of it as like an homage to it, either with the
yeah,
eyes to make it fit into the new Cars attractions, although they're going through the desert, so I don't know if you'd have a
right.
steamboat
The
anywhere
lake's
around it.
there. Yeah,
But having it more around the either in the queue or near the entrance to Tiana's, and then have a band perform on it every once in a while or something. That would be an interesting idea. So, but the thing I'm looking forward to most that it seems really awesome what they're going to do with the rally race through the desert. which looks like it's gonna be something similar to Radiator Springs Racers, which is just an amazing, amazing attraction that I don't think they could do that better. From the style of the cars to going through the desert areas that they have, and the scenery looks like it's right out of uh the Cars movies. And then there's a little interior part where you get to go and see some of the characters from the movies, and they're just really, really done well. So I'm looking forward to this a lot.
Yeah, that one I'm looking forward to us getting on this side of the country. I um think that they are going to hopefully lean heavily onto what they did with Cars Land, because I think it's done so well there that I think that visually and things like that, it's going to be hard for them to top that with trying to match the movie. Um, Something that I haven't seen mentioned yet, which I absolutely want though with this, is I want them to bring the cones over,
The Cozy
because
Cone
those
Motel stuff.
looks, yes, that those different cones with the mac and cheese and all that stuff looks so good.
Yeah, I don't know if I've seen anything about new dining that's going with it, but that would be it. Hey, it worked. Well, in next week's episode,
Right,
we're gonna make some with the Galaxy's Edge. We make a few recommendations. We recorded it before the D23 announcements, so but a few of the things that we speculated on and asked for came true. So maybe we can ask again. And
right, have Dewey make that phone call. Maybe he's the magic one with the phone.
well, his father-in-law is a cast member, so he kind of has an in.
That's
So
true.
and then the other Cars attraction will be a more family-friendly attraction, and they didn't really say really any information on it. So I'm wondering if it might be a Tomorrowland Speedway type thing to let kids drive the cars, or if it can be like a Mater's Junkyard Jamboree, which is similar to the Alien Swirling Saucer. So they have the technology, they have ride vehicles like that. So we'll have to just wait and see on that. I haven't seen anything new with any
Yeah,
details.
the image that they gave was very, very basic, that it was just literally like sort of an up close of Mather himself. So yeah, either something like you said, like the Junkyard Jamboree or the Luigi's Rollickin' Roadsters. Um, Something like that might be more along the lines of what we're getting there, which might be also why they didn't invest into doing a whole lot of artwork for it, because it's not going to be something that's super different from things that we don't already have. It's not going to get the buzz going versus like the rally race.
Yeah. What I out in Disneyland, the one thing that I was really happy that I got to go on before the Rollicking Roasters got their new Roadsters, if I enunciate, got the change. They had a ride. The ride that was before that was kind of like the flying saucers that they had in Tomorrowland back when Disneyland started. And I saw
Oh
that on
wow.
documentaries. It was like air fans under the ground blowing air up through these little
Mm-hmm.
holes that kind of get covered and uncovered. So it's kind of like an air hockey thing. And you're sitting on these little like inflatable, look like small, tiny little hovercraft, and you could lean your body weight, and then you could move across the surface. And it was a neat thing to go on. They had technical issues so bad with it, they would break down so often. So
Right.
that's why they removed it from Tomorrowland back in the 50s, and why they removed it from California Adventure several years ago. But that was a fun thing. I doubt that's what they're going to bring there, but
Yeah. Yeah. The
you can always
I
dream.
think the first iteration of it only lasted maybe a year, if I remember correctly. Like it was like super quick that they got rid of them because they just broke down so frequently. Um, but yeah, that's cool that you got to actually take advantage of it and at least get a chance to try it, even though it wasn't always operational during that time.
Yeah, that was the one thing. My first trip there was like, I saw whenever I was playing, I was like, They have that. Yes. So the next thing, which has gotten a lot of publicity, and this is what a lot of people have been looking forward to, is Villains Land, which it said preparations are underway. So I'm not sure if they're moving dirt yet or anything. I haven't uh, seen any official news on that, but they're planning two major attractions. It'll be behind Frontierland and Liberty Square, and that's about all we know about it. So they're being very close to the vest on this one, but it has gotten a lot of people have been asking about this and anticipating this and speculating on this for years. So now we finally get to see it.
Yeah, this one my wife is going nuts for. Like she as soon as I saw the announcement, I'm like, oh my goodness, we're going to end up spending like the entire day just in that land, which I guess is turnaround's fair play with me and Galaxy's Edge. So I'll have to be understanding, which I mean probably is not going to be hard with this section. It sounds like they have some really cool things potentially in the works. It looks like they're going to potentially have several villains castles, sort of like how we have over in Fantasyland. And if, from what I'm seeing, if this uh if my eyes aren't deceiving me, is if you look at that big wide shot uh of the concept art, there is going to be a fairly large roller coaster. Yeah, at initial glance, it almost looks like the thorns that they have up in the foreground, but when you look closer, it's actually roller coaster tracks with like spikes off the side. Um,
And even if those are thorns, if you could tie that into a Beauty and the Beast, or excuse me, a Sleeping Beauty, Maleficent,
mhm.
dragon, that there are so many possibilities that when you hear actors talking, that some of the best roles they have are of villains, and that the
Yes.
villains are so much fun to play. And even between us, whenever we dress for the 501st or the Rebel Legion, dressing as one of the Imperial, as an Imperial, is a lot more fun than dressing as one of the rebels. At least in my opinion, you can
Yeah.
have a little more fun in different ways with when you're interacting with kids. That the Imperial, can I get a picture with you? And yes, you're going to take the picture with the kid, but first you're going to give him a little bit of a hard time of, well, who's your favorite character? And then he says, oh, it's Baby Yoda. And then, you kind of brush him off, and then you take the picture. Or, if he's
Right.
like Darth Vader, it's like, okay, yeah, since you gave me the right answer, we'll get a picture.
Yeah. Yeah. You're given a little bit more freedom to be creative with how that those interactions go as the bad guy. And um yeah, this area that, well, you mentioned about Maleficent with the thorns and everything. She was one. I think there were two villains that were sort of teased in the initial intro, and it included Ursula and Maleficent. So I think that's a really solid theory that is potentially going to be her ride, and that it will be sort of interesting, like if it's um like you're trying to escape her and she's already changed to the dragon or something like that. Like they could do some really really neat things with that. um or even that it goes down into like her layer as part of the roller coaster. So that'll be neat to see. um and but yeah, that's the only thing that I see that definitely gives you sort of an idea of what might be there attraction wise. But there's so many possibilities that they could do with this, and the look, like it gives you feels of like Pride Rock at points with some of the cliffs on the one side, and um, the castles from some of the different villains and things like that. So it's looks really really cool. Oh, and you know what? I just saw something that I didn't see before. which might actually continue to build that theory, is actually sort of between where the waterfalls are and where the coaster tracks are, is Maleficent blowing green fire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see it. I'm looking at probably the same picture as you.
Yeah, it's that larger wide shot with like the crow up front on the thorns.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, and something else they could do is they've had so many other. So, besides the original movies, there's so many other shows and movies out there, and continuations and sequels and whatever, just little TV shows that tell backstories on some of these characters. And like the new uh Little Mermaid show, a movie that came out, the live action one, that kind of
Mhm.
gives a little bit more of the background of Ursula and her relationship with Triton. And so you can get into a little bit more of, there's more story to be told there. It'll
Right.
also be interesting that you can, I doubt they're going to do this, but tell something from the villain's point of view. So especially with
Yes.
like Cobra Kai, you get Johnny's point of view, and it's not always good and bad. You get
Hmm.
reasons why people act that way and how they perceive the slight that they would be interesting.
Yeah.
There was a Simpsons episode when Otto the bus driver says like tell something from the vampire's point of view, so we could get.
Yeah. I think that would be neat to see that. That's it, and that would be an interesting take to see. So, because so much is focused on the hero's journey, with all the different characters that uh and with the more recent movies and things like that, they go with a little bit more of the approach of, well, by the hero's point of view, this person is bad, but based on what that person went through, they think they're doing the right thing. And
Mhm.
so like seeing it as that other point of view uh would be a interesting take for them to do, and really isn't done anywhere else. I mean, in the amusement parks, I don't think there's any ride that I've seen that's really like, here you're the bad guy,
Mhm.
uh, quote unquote, for this situation, and you're going along for that. Um, so that would be a interesting take, and one that I think, because there are so many people that are fans of those bad guys, just because they've been done so well across all of these different movies, that they've been just anxiously waiting for something like this. I think that they would be thrilled if they went with that approach of like, hey, here's the world through their eyes.
And there's so much potential for a stage show to that. And like you said about the Pride Rock thing, it's almost a natural stage to have a show on, or to do something out of that.
Yes.
The possibilities are endless.
Yeah, and that second castle, the one off to the right, it almost gives me a little bit of the castle from Descendants feel. So that would be an interesting thing, that if it somehow gets tied in with some of the Descendants characters, since they're so popular as
Hmm.
well. Um, Maybe not something that they rush into immediately at the opening, because I think so many people are going to just want to see them go through as many of those classic villains to be inclusive of those, since they haven't gotten the features, other than a few minor spots that they probably won't need the Descendants one, but it'll be something age wise that they'll be able to draw more well, not kids, but young adults here soon in as they start to get to the deciding point on making the trips themselves and things like that.
Oh, absolutely. My oldest nephew just turned 21 a little while ago, and his younger sister, my oldest niece, is, she has her driver's permit now. So, but I remember whenever the Descendants I don't know if it was a TV show, TV movie came out, that she was so into that, and that was a big thing in our family of watching those and hearing all about all those characters. Which that was a tremendous idea though, to bring the kids of the classic villains together.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Again, gives you some different perspectives on the characters that you would have maybe thought differently of initially. That there's additional reasons to why they're doing what they are, and uh, if they were felt slighted in a scenario, so they're justified or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, and looking on a little bit of a brighter side of things, but still being in the dark, if that's possible. And starting next year in 2025, Disney Starlight, which will be a nighttime parade, is going to come to Magic Kingdom Park, and it's going to be kind of reminiscent of the Electrical Light Parade, which I loved that as a kid. And so nighttime parade, all the lights, it's, there's something magical about that. And this one specifically I saw featured of the Blue Fairy, Peter Pan, characters from Encanto, and characters from Frozen. So there's, well, it's what you would expect, especially Encanto and Frozen. They were very popular. And then the Blue Fairy is classical from, classic character from Pinocchio, and then Peter Pan with Tinkerbell. So everything is going
Yeah,
in. It looks like
I
fun.
think yes, definitely. I think that this will be nice to have, like the uh, uh, part of me is like I would have just been thrilled to get Main Street Electrical Parade back in and of itself. I know it, like some of the rides are, or not the rides, but the
The
cars and
floats,
things
yeah.
like that they use are older within it, and but it's still a really entertaining parade. Now, in comparison to the nighttime parades at Disneyland, yeah, it's nothing in comparison to that as far as the ability of what they can do with those lights on the new ones. So it'll be cool to see some characters that weren't previously represented, and see them do some things that we haven't had the opportunity to see, because like they never brought the I want to say World of Keller, but that's the one on the water there. Um, the nighttime parade that was right before um, Main Street Electrical went back to Disneyland. Um,
Yeah, I can't think of it either. But yeah, that
yeah,
one.
yeah, it was the one that had Mac with it from Cars, and I guess Mac was sort of the big sticking point for it. Is um, he wasn't drivable across the U.S. himself, and he was literally too big to be put onto a trailer and be hauled. Like there was no route that they were able to physically figure out to make him able to be brought over, and they didn't want to do it without him since he was a big part of that initial parade. So it'll be nice to see us get updated attractions. So we've been without it for so long. I think it was 2017, 2016.
Yeah,
I
it's been a
think when
while.
they ended. So I mean, we're going on 10 years roughly, um, without a nighttime parade. So that's a really long time for us being without that. Um, Especially with how many people come to the parks there, to not have that additional parade to sort of help spread the crowds out at points.
Yeah, and thin out the lines whenever you're trying to get on one of the attractions later in the evening. So, uh, other things that are coming are two taverns, lounges type areas. So, in Magic Kingdom Park, there will be a tavern that's themed to Pirates of the Caribbean. That's going to open in 2025. And then in Epcot, there's one themed to Spaceship Earth, which is also coming next year. So, have you seen anything on the location of either of these?
Yes. The Pirates one is actually where the store was
Okay, so they're
for
replacing the store.
they're replacing the store. Um,
So exit
the
through the
one
gift shop
the one
is
that's it's like across the way, the one that you do the spinning for the Pirates.
okay. That the extra one. Okay.
Yeah, the extra one is my understanding. I could be wrong, but I believe that that's where that one was. And then the other one is actually being a reclaimed sponsor lounge. Um,
It's in the
that
base there by Spaceship Earth.
Yep. So they're reclaiming that and theming it up to be spaceship theme base. Excuse me, spaceship Earth based. Um, so that it will go along with the theming of the actual ride. It's supposed to have some really nice views from the windows there, from what
And,
I was hearing.
and just some of the decorations on the inside with like the, if we can call it like disco ball type things hanging from the ceiling, that
Yeah.
the tie-in with Spaceship Earth is apparent. So, and since we're in Epcot, Test Track will be reopening in 2025. That they're revamping that a bit. That the queue will have 6 exhibits and celebrated vehicles and the people behind the vehicles. There's going to be new scenes showcasing the technological advances and how our lifestyles and relationships with mobility connect everybody. Uh, they're going to, with the scenes, there are going to be some with onboard technology and customization or personalization. And then we're also going to have the outdoor going fast part of it, which is my favorite part anyway. And they're redesigning the outside of the building to reflect the original design of the attraction, which I like the original one better than the second version for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the first one was definitely the better. So I get why they tried to change it, but I think that the execution on the second one left a little bit to be desired.
Yeah, so I'm anticipating and looking forward to what they're going to do with the new one. So, and the only sad thing is it's coming in 2025, that our next trip is early 2025, so I don't think it's going to be quite ready. So, that'll I guess we'll have to take an extra trip on Soarin' instead. So,
Right.
next up, we're going to hop on over to Disney's Hollywood Studios. So, you can take your pick of whether you want to take the walk through the Crescent Lake area or take a friendship or do the Skyliner. So, we have plenty of ways to get across there. But Monsters Inc. Land is coming and they're going to start construction in 2025. There's going to be the first suspended roller coaster at Disney. This one will take you through the door vault at the Laugh Factory of Monstropolis, which, there's a few scenes in movies that people have been clamoring for a ride for, and that is one of them. That they sort of have something like that out in Disneyland with the Monsters Inc. attraction, but it's more of a slow moving dark ride, not a roller coaster going fast. So this has great potential. And as we mentioned before, with the theming that they've done on Cars Land and Toy Story Land and Galaxy's Edge and Pandora, that being in Monsters Inc. Land, from the artist concepts, they're really going to put you right in the middle of Monstropolis.
Yes. Yeah. The one thing that was consistent in the concept art was that main building. that I'm sure is going to be where the Doors attraction is housed. Um, the there's a lot of talk about potential locations for this. Some I know you and I wouldn't be happy with to a point unless we got other news. Um, there's four potential areas that I've heard. One is um, sort of work in front of the park back is going to be where uh, Rock and Roller Coaster is. Because there's that extra area that was off to the right they used as like the Darth Mall. They had the um, Disney Junior dance party for a while there, and like an extra structure there was like a temporary structure they put up, which actually that was a really nice thing for the kids when it was there. My daughter had a blast. We were there for like an hour and a half with her dancing around with the Disney Junior characters, and we were able to get a drink and air conditioning, and there were nice comfy chairs that you could charge your stuff and everything. So we sort of were disappointed that that one closed so quickly, but there's definitely some room there that they could work with. Another thing, because there's been talks on and off pretty regularly, um, is Rock and Roller Coaster retheme. It's a simple building to basically redo, because there really isn't a whole lot in that building other than some lights and the actual track and those handful of signs that you see. The like when those lights come on, it's a tight fit when you look at that track layout. So I don't know if that would be enough, or if they'd have to actually like build onto the structure, and could they do that? Um, and there's of course the talks at points in time where they were not sure if they'd be able to renew the royalty agreements with Aerosmith, and so that could be a solution to that. The second one, which I probably is a little further down on my list of the choice of four, is over on the right hand side where the docking bay, or not docking bay,
Star Wars
um
Launch Bay.
yeah, launch bay, um over that way. But they there's a lot of, I guess, administrative structures behind there. So for them to have enough area, um, they're either going to have to take out of a lot of administrative and like break areas and stuff like that for cast members to fit it there, or they're going to have to hit that Disney Junior area, which I really don't think they want to touch, because that's one of the few areas that you actually can sort of consistently get access to Disney Junior characters right now. The third one, which is probably number one or two on my list for where I'd like to see it, is there is actually a decent sized space of land. It doesn't look like, well, when you're walking it, it doesn't feel like it. But when you actually look at the map, the area between Toy Story Land and where like Edna Mode and all those greeting areas are, there's actually a pretty significant plot of land that's almost the size of Toy Story Land that's between those two locations. So there's a possibility that they could bridge Incredibles with them Monsters Inc. and then go into Toy Story Land.
And so this is right if you're by One Man's Dream, the Walt Disney thing. If you like that, the dead end alley now that used to be where
Yeah.
you would walk down to go on Toy Story Mania. And that's kind of where the backlot tour started, that area.
Yes, exactly. There, and sort of hooking around to behind like where the restrooms and everything
Hmm.
are on that main drag, that area there is actually a pretty significant size piece of land from what I've seen. And then the last one, which is bottom on my list, other than if they give another big announcement, would be uh us losing Star Tours, potentially Indiana Jones, um, and or Muppets. Um, that area there. Um, I mean, that would be a significant piece of land that they could do it with, but I think Indiana Jones seats a lot of people and gets some a significant amount of bodies into seats that pull away from rides at points throughout the day. That I don't know that they could afford, because there isn't, other than Frozen, there isn't any other stage shows until the very end of the night, really.
Well, there's Beauty and
Um,
the Beast too, but
oh,
that
that's right. That's right. Um, but that also is going to pull a very different demographic crowd.
yeah, and having every hour for a half hour during it or 40 minutes, however long it takes, every hour pulling in 3,000, 2,000, 3,000 people to depending on how many people go to it with Indiana Jones, that's reducing the lines elsewhere. So yeah, you don't want to lose that. Although with the changes they've made to Indiana Jones, I think it's a lesser show, not having the audience
Mhm.
participation as much as they used to.
Yeah.
But it's still it's packed every time we go there. So it's still a
Yeah.
very popular show. And the updates they did, it again, we talked about the rewritability, changing some of the a little bit of the jokes and some of the experience to be something different. Oh, it's new, so you might want to go see it again. And well, no matter what, I love Indiana Jones, so I'm gonna go see it. It's entertaining. I love the corny jokes, no matter how many times I hear them. That's why I love the Jungle Cruise, same type of thing.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I would agree that we Dewey, he's going to be on next week with his podcast, WDW Reflections. Is his big thing is refurbish, not replace. So
Hmm.
update the attraction as it is, but don't replace it with something else. So
Yeah.
taking out Launch Bay, that after Galaxy's Edge opened, that place is a ghost town. So you
Yeah.
have it out there, and they did not reopen the aerial attraction that is right there. So it's kind of leading into
Well, that is coming.
that's coming back.
Uh, yeah, that's coming back
That's right, because they're going to
this
have,
fall, I want to say it is.
but still having Launch Bay. That would be a
Yeah.
great place, and we can move the administrative stuff somewhere else.
Right. You probably need updated buildings anyway.
Yep. Also in the Monsters Inc. land, you'll get to meet Mike and Solly. At least those were the ones that they kind of were touting. Remember, it's Mike with one eye, Wazowski. So, although I got to be him in on the Monsters Inc. laugh floor
Oh,
in Magic
nice.
Kingdom one time, that is such an underrated show.
It is.
With the audience participation of anyone who has not been on it, that they have the monsters up telling jokes, and you have to fill the laugh canister, and Roz is always watching, and it makes some appearances, and it's comedy based, and they'll have cameras there, and they'll show pictures of different audience members, and as they're telling a story, they're like, and there was Mike Wazowski, and they'll show a picture of a person. And one time it was me. He's like, no, but it's Mike with one eye. So you cover up your one eye. And yeah, it's like, then this next person got up and danced. And so then they have, kids, they'll bring a microphone over to some kids, and they get to participate in it too. So it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy that.
A funny story with a guy that likes to dance. We went to it was my first trip. We went, and my brother-in-law was picked as the guy that likes to dance, and he's in a full costume. It was before they didn't allow masks for adults. Um, and he was a superhero character. First half of his name was Kick. And the second half, the cast members couldn't say. Uh, so he got to dance as that character like 3 or 4 times throughout the show, and the cast members that were there when we left, they were rolling because they of seeing him dance, and like the interactions were very fun that night on top of that. But yeah, we've seen some really good times at that ride, and definitely or attraction, and really underrated. Get you a nice break, and they find ways to make it entertaining every time.
Absolutely. Another one you can watch that show different times because they do there's a set thing they do, but there are some variations that make it fun. Plus the audience interactions. If you get a good group that's willing to play along, it's very, very entertaining.
Yeah,
Another one that you'll hear us talk about it more next week that we were hoping for is the changes to William Falcon's Smuggler's Run coming in 2026 whenever the new Mandalorian and Grogu movie comes out. And so we get to have a new adventure uh, featuring those characters. So it's nice to have more options, kind of like they do with Star Tours. Just a
I
little
think that
variety.
yeah, the only disappointing part with that one is that we have to wait 2 years to see that, because I think Mandalorian Grogu's release in fall 2026, if I remember correctly, is when it's scheduled for. So we've got almost a full 2 years that this is going to be until we see that for like a digital upload. Like they're not going to have to change the mechanics in that ride. It's going to do what they need it to. They build it for being able to do multiple experiences. So why are we waiting a full 2 years for basically a software upgrade?
Marketing.
Yeah.
But another thing is though, from what I read, they kind of alluded to that they're gonna actually do filming with the actual the on location, everything like that.
Yeah.
So it might be the fact that they're waiting that they haven't filmed any of these yet, and they want to actually do some live action stuff with the characters, along with then add in the special effects and whatever else.
Right.
That might be part of it, and maybe they don't actually have the full scripts made. It's just all right. We know we're gonna do this now we have to figure out what we're going to do.
But again, it goes back to okay, that like I definitely get that part. Like, yeah, if you want to keep the cost down, film it at the time of the movie while you have everyone set. You have the spaces and everything for recording, but there's so many other storylines that they could do. And Galaxy's Edge has now been open 5 years, and we're gonna have to wait 7 for them to do something that was announced that it was going to happen at opening. I think that they could have found another storyline that wouldn't have broken the budget too much to be able to increase the repeatability of that ride, because the wait times are definitely decreasing on Smuggler's Run, in comparison to what it was at the beginning, because you have some variance depending on who you get tossed in the cabin with, but it's definitely a lot less than if they would at least have a second option that you might get to see.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So so we understand the reasons why we're having this delay, but as Star Wars fans, we want it now, okay?
Right. It should have been here yesterday.
We're gonna move on to the last land that we're gonna talk about is in Animal Kingdom. They have two things. the biggest announcement is Tropical Americas, which will begin construction soon and will be opening in 2027. This will basically replace Dinoland USA. At least I'm assuming that. I know that the dinosaur ride will go away and be replaced by an Indiana Jones attraction with this themed around a Mayan temple. And the Indiana Jones Adventure out in Disneyland and the dinosaur attraction in Animal Kingdom have the same ride vehicle. That they're identical. And if you ever rode both, you realize very quickly they are the same ride vehicle. And hold on for dear life because it is a rough ride. But it'll be nice. The special effects on the Indiana Jones Adventure in Disneyland Park are phenomenal, and the storytelling and everything, it's great. You definitely get your steps in walking along like the mile and a half queue to get to it, where they had to shoehorn it in, but it's well worth it. Even the queue is uh, interactive, and there's some things you can decode messages, and if it says don't pull the rope, make sure you pull the rope. And even the safety instructions are themed to a newsreel with Salah, the John Reese Davies character, that he's given the instructions as his character as part of a newsreel of your, and it tells the story of how you're going to go save Indy. And so it's really, really done well. So I'm looking forward to this a lot.
Yeah, it will be neat to see this. It's been a while since we've got anything new Indiana Jones, and I think that there's so much opportunity with the animatronic advancement and everything to get some really cool experiences there. Although my question on that one is, are they still going to have the ketchup and mustard tube somewhere?
They got it right.
You'd think so, but I don't know where they're going to exactly fit them. But
The Imagineers are brilliant. They'll find a way. And then the other one will be an Encanto attraction where it's gonna be a ride through where you get to go through the casita, their house, and you're gonna go into Antonio's room. It gets transformed into a rainforest because he can communicate with animals. So that looks like a fun ride that it's gonna fit very nicely with the rainforest in Animal Kingdom. And my little girl loves any animal whatsoever. She just thinks everything is so cute, wants to pick them all up and take them home. So she's gonna love this.
yeah, that's it sounds very interesting because it's going to take you to some areas that you didn't see as part of the movie too, from what it's sounding like, because it sounds like they're, when you enter the casita, that you're going to actually go through the other family members' rooms as well, but you'll end up in the rainforest room. Like that's going to be sort of the feature highlight area that probably most of it's going to be part of, but then you're going to get those additional areas leading up to it that you'll get to see the sisters' rooms and things like that. So that'll be cool to see. And like you said, marketing before, I just see there being a store with like literally like 40 different stuffed animals of all the different types that you see on that ride. Like a Beanie Baby collect them all type deal at the end of that attraction.
I'll have one of each, please.
Right.
But yeah, there are so many possibilities of going through the casita with all the magic stuff that you get to see in the movie, and then just other things you don't see that they could go around just with the nature of the characters. That there's so many possibilities. It could be really great.
Yeah, and even the initial like walk up, it sort of looks like you may get uh the interactivity of the outside of the casita, that like
Oh, the
the
queue could be great with that. Yeah.
oh my goodness, like the shutters going and the tiles dancing and stuff like that. um oh my goodness, w- sort of taking something from the Moana experience, but having interactivity where it's based on like raising your hand or moving something to the side or stepping a particular place to cause like it to shift a chair across the room on the side or something like that. Like there could be so many cool things with that.
Or like go to touch the curtains and the curtains move away from your hand type thing. That,
Right, exactly.
yeah, that would be great. And the other thing coming to Animal Kingdom in the Tree of Life Theater, replacing it's tough to be a bug, will be Zootopia, Better as You Gather. So instead of Better Together, they throw the zoo in there. Now it says opening next winter. So I
Mhm.
don't know if that means like January, February of 2025, or if that's going to be December, January, February of 2026. So it was kind of unclear on that, and I didn't see
Yeah,
a definitive timeline.
that's unfortunately that they're pretty broad in their term of winter for that. And so yeah, it's since they just said next winter, like you said, that could technically roll into 2026 for several months. So
Yeah,
hopefully
but
we'll get it sooner. But
yeah, they'll have to do a little bit of retheming with the queue in the theater.
yeah,
But then again, it's going to be a change of a movie, so
right.
it's a digital upload now. I would say pop in a new reel or even a new DVD, but we're upgrading our technology now, so just an
Hopefully
upload.
remove the piece that pokes you in the back.
Those things, yeah. Although that could have some potential for um, a like a porcupine walking in the seat
Yeah,
behind you. Excuse me, pardon me.
right. Maybe at least make it a gentler thing.
So that comes to the end of all the announcements that they made, at least for the um, parks in the United States. There are some other ones that are happening at Shanghai and Hong Kong and Disneyland Paris and potentially some at Tokyo as well that we're not going to get into uh, just because we've gone for like an hour and a half already. So we'll keep it somewhat manageable. So, Justin, what is your travel tip for today?
My travel tip for today is actually that I highly recommend for anyone that's traveling at least somewhat frequently is to look at TSA pre-check. Unless you're flying out of like a really slow airport regularly, um, I found it to be really worth the money very quick. It's $78.85 if you apply using Telos. Um, the process basically it gives you a completely separate line to enter um, through security. Your tickets has that indicator on it so that you can quickly go through. It removes the need of doing things like taking off your shoes, taking off your belt, taking off like coats. You don't have to remove your liquids from your bag like you do. You don't have to remove, um, I think, your electronics from your bag. So it really, really, really speeds up the process. It's good for 5 years for that $78. So I mean, you're paying less than $20 a year for it. And if you have kids that are 12 or under, they're included with your approval. So this is really good for anyone that flies domestically. I think I'm in my second year of having TSA pre-check for the current time, and in all of my flights in and out of Pittsburgh, DC, MCO, etc., I spent less time in security checks this last 2 years than I did in one security check line from Pittsburgh uh, by using this TSA pre-check. So it's a real lifesaver, especially if you end up having tighter windows for you to get through security. Someone gets delayed, parking's bad, things like that. You have a lot less concern to worry about getting through those lines, because normally it's a couple minutes, if that, for you to get through the entire line.
Yeah, our recent experience when we flew to Puerto Rico, we don't have uh, pre-check, mainly because my wife is not a U.S. citizen, so she can't get it. So even if I can get it and get through, we're still waiting for her. So, but they were doing the dog check, the drug sniffing dog or a bomb sniffing dog, and that just took forever. But once we got through that, then the line moved real quick. But it was in Pittsburgh. It was out the door. They have like big walkway to goes to the parking lot, and it was all the way out to there. So we got there and saw it, and like, oh boy. So but it wasn't too bad of a line. It was maybe 15, 20 minutes. So it wasn't horrendous. Um, but yeah, that's a great thing. And even if you do fly out of smaller airports, you're not going to be flying to smaller airports. So whenever you come back, you're going to have to go through the big lines anyway, especially if you go to Orlando with MCOs. That line is,
Uh,
they do a great job of moving it quickly because they have enough
mhm.
people there to check everything, but still being able to skip that line, especially after whether you're in Universal or Disney and you've been waiting in lines all week, it's nice to not have another line at the airport.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely saves time,
And especially for the price, you can't beat that.
right?
My travel tip is when you're traveling to Disney or any other location to make sure you check the weather forecast and be prepared in case there's rain or if it's gonna be cold or hot, whatever. So bring your layers or your sweatshirt, that type of thing. And of course, if it's gonna be raining, bring your poncho rather than trying to buy one there. Although if you want to do it on a budget, and what we did the one time we went to Florida and then the forecast changed for it was gonna be all rain, rain all day one time, that we went to a local store and just bought the big giant garbage bags, and we cut little holes in the head and for the arms, and we bought a cheap umbrella and we used those as our ponchos, and it led to some interesting pictures of us walking through Epcot wearing these black trash bags on us, and but it got a lot of laughs from other people who saw us and a lot of nods of, oh, I just spent $15 for this poncho. That's a really good idea. So save you some money. It does the exact same thing. It's not exactly, fashionable, but whenever you're walking around a poncho, you're not really doing too much fashion anyway. And another tip is either bring extra shoes that you don't mind getting wet, or something like Crocs, sandals, the water shoes that you get, because in case you have a rain day, that you can throw those into your bag fairly easily. Especially the water shoes. We bought those just recently that we were at a water park, and they wouldn't let you. We had sandals and Crocs and stuff, but they wouldn't let you wear them. But they would let you wear the water shoes onto the slides, and so not having to walk around on concrete and potentially hot metal or stuff like that all day, it saved some blisters and sore feet. That having to in those fold up, they're real small, they'll fit in to bags really easily, better than Crocs or some other things, and they're a little bit more comfortable, and they enclose your toes, unlike sandals. So you don't have any pressure points that are weird to get blisters if you have to walk a lot with them. So switching out of those to keep your shoes and socks dry, and then after it's done raining, you can switch them back. But make sure it's something that's comfortable enough to walk in a bit, depending on how long the rain's going to be, and especially if you're going to be going to Florida, particularly during the summer or almost any time of the year that they get those pop-up rainstorms. That's a real nice thing not to have to walk around in wet shoes or wet socks or any other amusement park if there's a wet ride. We went to Kennywood, the local amusement park in Western Pennsylvania, a couple weeks ago, and the Raging Rapids, the one water ride that we went on that. My wife and daughter had the ponchos. It was a decently warm enough day, so I wasn't worried about getting wet, but I switched my shoes out, and I was so happy because I got soaked, and of course they hardly got anything. Even with if they hadn't worn the ponchos, they would have gotten nothing. Just always my luck. Um, but having dry shoes is a lifesaver. So if you have a destination or experience that you'd like to have us discuss on the Where Yinz Goin podcast, or if you'd like to share your favorite destination or a travel tip, feel free to contact me. I'd love to hear your feedback and ideas. If you are already working with a Dreams by Design travel advisor, please continue to work with him or her. Otherwise, Justin, how can people get a hold of you?
Easiest way to get all my contact information is by going to my Linktree. That's linktr.ee/vacation with Justin, all run together like it's one word. Or you can email me at justin@dreamsbydesigntravel.com.
For me, my social media is at Matt with DBD on Facebook, X, and Instagram. Email, it's Matt, M-A-T-T, at dreamsbydesigntravel.com. Website for our company is dreamsbydesigntravel.com. And this information is all going to be in the show description, so you don't have to memorize it now or write it down. You can always look it up later. And if you want to contact us to book a trip or have any questions, you can get a hold of us. Please like, follow, subscribe, leave a review, tell a friend. Get the word out. If you like what you heard, we'd like to grow our audience. Please join us next time. We're heading out in that. We'll see you later.